Well, thank you so much, Erasmo, for helping with my project. And I know I didn't quite get the name right, but could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, okay. So my name's Erasmo Alejandro Medeles. I currently reside in Brownsville, Texas, and I'm a senior attending Homer Hanna Early College High School. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And you were telling me about this great organization you're a part of at your high school called TSA.
Yes, so TSA we can compete in a lot of different things. There's a lot of subcategories that we can choose from, ranging from fashion, construction, structural engineering. It just depends which one you choose from. The one I'm going with, the team I hope to be part of, is going to be one that's going for video game design. So in there, what we do is we create our original soundtrack. So it can't be copyrighted. It can't be something that, oh, you should get it from a free website. No, because they'll automatically X you out. They won't even consider you. They're just like, no, this is copyrighted. No, you have to create your own video game, which it has to be intriguing for the person, because who's gonna want a game that they just look at and they're like, nah, I'm going with another one. Like, why would you put so much time and effort into something that, if you don't like it, you know that other people are not gonna like it. If you yourself, you're like, nah, other people are not gonna even take a chance to look at it. So you really have to put your best foot forward and just go with the flow and just keep striving.
So
Mhm.
you're working on theme music. Do you play an instrument?
Yes, I play several. As a matter of fact, I have my electric guitar, acoustic guitar, classical guitar over here. And then when I was in middle school, I used to play the clarinet as well as the bassoon and the bass clarinet. So I'm familiar with like music theory and things like that, and play music. Mhm.
And it's not just the theme music, it's all the sound effects.
Yeah, it's all the sound effects. So what happens is that nowadays we have a bunch of soundboards where you could create your own music, and then depending on the video game, if you want something mysterious, you're gonna have to mess around with like the pitch and the settings, versus if you want something like, I don't know, like Legends of Zelda, you're gonna have to go with like something like classical. That's where you get the classical guitar. But if you want something a little bit more hardcore, then get the electric and boost up the game. That we can get the really really scary and rock and roll. So yeah, it all depends on the game we're going for.
So after you create the game with your group, is it
Mhm.
going to be something that's be made available to everybody that, like, for example, I could play, or how does that work?
So what's gonna happen is that we're going to be presenting to a panel of judges. What we did last year was that all of us were on a Zoom meeting like this one, and we're playing the game in the background, like on a separate screen. That way the judges could see. And then we were all talking about what we did in the game and how we contributed, what we did for our part, and what the game mechanics could do. And from there, where do you go? And we submitted that to the judges, and then we actually advanced to, what was it? We advanced to nationals because we were at state at that point, and then we advanced to national. We're like, oh my god, that's crazy! And then from nationals to globals, we didn't make it to globals, but it was a great experience because we were there. And then that same day, I remember, because right now I don't currently work, but I used to work, and I was going 36 hours with no sleep because I did a shift at work. I went to school, I didn't sleep, and then I did another shift from work, and then I went to the border because right here Brownsville is a border town. You can go to one of three borders. So I went to the Puente Viejo because there's Puente Viejo, Nuevo, and then El de los Tomates. They call it tomates, which is Spanish for tomatoes, because of the fact that there's a lot of agriculture, and then they just coined it tomatoes. I guess doesn't make sense to me, but okay, whatever. So I was going there, and then there was a state trooper right there, and I didn't see him, and I did a rolling stop, and then I parked, and then he just lit me up, and I was like, oh no. And then the worst part of it all was that my car, it didn't have insurance. The car was registered, it just didn't have insurance, and I was supposed to be driving with an adult because I still had the permit, but I didn't drive with an adult. So he could have taken the car. The state trooper, thank God he didn't. And well, I'm here today. And then in exactly a month and a day, it's gonna be my 18th birthday, and I'll get the restriction removed, and I can drive legal. Yay!
That's that's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
it's like so liberating to be able to hop in a
Mhm.
car and fly someplace. I mean, drive someplace.
Drive some, no, yeah, it's I couldn't do that now, and now that I can, I'm like, oh, okay, like that's cool. But now yes, I can go in a car, but now I have to make time. Like, oh, should I need to leave the house by this time to like make it to school or like drop off somewhere? Like, oh, let's go eat something like that. You always have to be aware of the time. Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny, you're talking about the video games and not making it to global. It's amazing which video games have become popular. Like Angry Birds is a simple game of
Mhm.
throwing birds at buildings, and somehow that became hugely popular. Uh, and so it's almost like, it's really random, it seems like, which games become popular.
Like some of them just like get attention, and then like for example, like Angry Birds, it's just literally you just drag your finger on the screen and just a little bird on the building, and it just became really popular. It's such a simple game, and it just I don't know, it became popular. So there's kind of like the little what is it? It's like an algorithm, and then that's where companies like Sony, for example, they hire people that work in the field. I can't remember the name of the actual field, but basically they um they look at what the mind they have studied what the mind is actually attracted to. So they'll be like, oh, they won't see that. Like for example, you're looking at a picture and then you see, I don't know, like a cup, and then immediately the first thing you looked at was a cup. Why? Because of a certain color, a certain shape, something attracted you to it. So they try to implement that into the game, and it'll get you like more hooked into the game. Or it's like, or if you keep playing for like 20 more minutes, your points will double. If you keep playing for an hour, they will triple, quadruple, like things like that, like incentives, like they were like boost ups and power ups that they help you. And then you're like, oh, let's keep playing and playing and playing and playing. So yeah, I've gotten hooked and addicted on games like that. That's fine.
Yeah, like Clash of Clans, I think is a popular one where you have to like build your little fortress and you
Mhm.
have to let things grow, but you have to keep checking on every so often, or you could pay to make things go faster, and things like that.
If you want to level up really fast, I played that game. If you want to level up really fast, you have it's basically like pay to win. So you waste a lot of money. You spend money and then you can level up things faster, or you can be passive and then actually earn it because was it? I believe every 2 weeks, 25 gem chest spawn or 50 gem chest spawns on the actual. Usually go in there, check the game frequently. That way you can clear it out and just hope for it to spawn. Yeah.
That's that is interesting. I
Yeah.
I had some questions to ask you. Uh, did you know that NASA is planning to put astronauts on the moon in 2024 for the first time since 1972?
I did not know that. I remember I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard something about it where they wanted to put a female astronaut on the moon, but I didn't, is it that?
Yes, it is
Is
that.
that? Oh, okay. So yeah, I have heard of it. I don't know too well into it, but I heard of it. Mhm.
Well, and that's an interesting point because they are talking a lot about putting the first female astronaut and the first person of color on the moon. Um, but the actual overall thing is to go back to the moon to stay, develop resources, explore, and it's just the first landing is going to have a female astronaut and a person of color, because the last time we went to the moon between 1969 and 1972, we had 12 white men walk on the moon, and this time we want to make sure that it's more representative of the entire population.
So similar to like how Kamala Harris became the what was it the first
Vice
the
President.
first female colored vice president, exactly like that, but just put it in space.
Well, yes, but I think it's important to know that that's not like the goal. That's just like one of the aspects of it. Like, I mean, because what we want to do is actually the develop the moon and
Or colonization, like colonize
it,
on the moon.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So hopefully after that first trip, people don't go, oh well, we did it and stop.
Yeah. No, frankly, the first SSDT, which was held in, what was it? I think 2018 at Veterans Memorial High School, our RFP was to actually design a settlement, a colonization on the moon. And then what recreational activities would you have? And that we got in our teams. And then our team, we didn't win because it was just two teams. Each of them was comprised of like 50 students. but we were just going at it, and then okay, how are we gonna do this? The spacesuits. What about the lunar dust? You also have to take into account, like if they deteriorate, what are you gonna do? Do you have backups or just like that? Like a lot of asks go into it, and then you think like, oh, you're done. Like, oh no, what about this? And then you forget a certain aspect of it, and then that opens up, like you leave a trail, and then that just opens up like a bunch of wrongs that if you had just done that, you would have been good. But since you didn't do that, you have to like retrace your steps and go back to the drawing board. So yeah, that was a really fun experience.
Were there any like recreational ideas that you came up with that could only be done on the moon?
That could only be done on the moon. Well, are you familiar with the movie series Harry Potter?
Uh-huh.
Harry Potter. So what we did, since what is it? Since the moon has, what is it, a third of our gravity? Uh,
Seventh.
a seventh of
Yeah.
our Earth's gravity. We designed somehow that it would be strapped onto the person. I don't know how, but basically Quidditch. We would be playing Quidditch on the moon, but we would create like an area where you can like float free, not float freely, but like it'll just be easier. I don't remember the exact details of it, but basically like moon Quidditch, and then you would still have the same concept as Harry Potter, just on the moon, because it'll be easier to mess around.
Hmm. That sounds interesting. It sounds like though that might be better in orbit than on the moon though. That way you're like in free fall and you're
That way
actually,
you're in free fall and there's no gravitational pull, just like holding you. Whereas the moon still has gravity. Yeah,
of course, maybe you could still have a few little thrusters and you're like doing these huge jumps from place to place.
from place to place. Yeah, exactly. But one situation that we encountered was, uh, what was it? There was a TV show or a movie where basically they had a trail, like a, like not train tracks. It was similar to train tracks, like road tracks, and you would just be there in your astronaut suit, and you would just be there on the moon, and you would be visiting everything. And then one of the visit sites was Neil Armstrong's when he stepped on the moon. So that was like one of them. We were designing that. We're designing something similar to like an outdoor, a little track. But one of the problems that we came up with was, you know how sometimes in the in space there's like unexpected, when there's like a lot of debris that is the equivalent of like a bullet shooting like right through you coming out of the back. So that was one of the problems, that by that time we wouldn't have the materials required to like, oh, there's a huge thing, like everyone get inside. Like we didn't have that much. So that was going to be a problem, like if they're halfway around the course or they just started and they can't go back, they can't reverse, and then they just get caught in that, they're dead. That there's no going back to it. There, that's it, they perish. So we were
Wow.
like kind of iffy on that. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into it. That's why you need to take into consideration a lot of things.
I know, and it's not like you just run over to a hardware store and buy something you missed or
Not
uh,
like you go to Home Depot and you just buy like a 2x4. Oh, here we go. That'll fix the job. No, you can't.
have, have
And
have you ever
okay,
heard of a explorer by name of Ernest Shackleton? He did a trip in like the early 1900s um, to actually go and take the first expedition across Antarctica.
I
Um,
don't think so. No, I'm not familiar with that one. No.
but it didn't go well because their ship got stuck in ice and then it got crushed and sank. And they had to figure out how to survive in the winter in Antarctica when it's like completely like dark and cold and they had very little equipment. And they had to figure out this is like back before you had radio and
No,
um,
it was the 1900s. Was what was it? World War I hadn't even been initiated, right? Because that was like 1917. No?
yeah, it was.
Like
I
something like that.
think I think they left just as World War One started because they were double checking to make sure they should go or if they should stay for the war. And I think like Winston Churchill's like they were British and said, go ahead and go. But um, anyway, they managed even through all that. Everybody on that mission survived. It's quite the story.
And how did they survive? Like, did they build igloos, or how would they do it? I'm curious.
But they were able to rescue a lot of the equipment from the ship and put it
Mhm.
in sleds. So they had like tents, and they had coats, and they had like hunting equipment, and they hunted like walruses and penguins and birds
Mhm.
and other things like that. And uh, they were able to start fires. They had, the big boat had little boats on it, so they were able to take those boats and drag them across the ice. And then after the summer came, make it over to like a whaling station. But this is
Okay.
all before GPS, right? They're
Yeah, I
using
was
the
so
the where this clocks to see.
the yeah, the position. Well, no, you can't really use the position of the sun because you're on one of the you're on well, where's Antarctica? On the bottom, no? The South
On
Pole?
the bottom, South Pole, yeah.
On the South Pole. So how would you even measure this? You can't.
But luckily you're not exactly on the pole. You're, maybe 10, 15
You're a little bit.
degrees
Oh, okay.
off. So, but you got the stars also. So, there's,
Mhm.
if you're familiar
The
with
constellations.
the constellations and
Oh
everything.
yeah, that will help you guide. Yeah. Mhm.
And so that was neat. But what do you think about us going back to the moon?
I think it's really fascinating and it's really interesting that we actually have a chance that to go back to the moon and then not only that but like putting the first female on the moon like that would be historic. It's like the last time that we went to the moon was what time, when did you say 19
The
what
the last time was 1972.
1972. So was that 82, 92, 2002, 2012, 22, 49,
So 49
49 years
years,
ago.
yeah.
9 years ago. Oh, that's a long time. That's a really long time. I felt like we should have already done like a couple trips to the moon and back, like actually gone on the moon and then come back. But no, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I would really like that. It would make me really happy to see the first female go on the moon because like where I'm from, you really don't see. Well, actually, in the world, you really don't see women like taking like really high positions. When when has there ever been like a female president?
Well,
Like
Pakistan
a
used to have a female prime minister for a long time. There was a female prime minister and several female queens in
Queens in England?
England, and then like the Chancellor of Germany, she was female.
I didn't even know that information.
Yeah, I mean, well, she
No,
just
yeah.
recently retired, but I think she was like chancellor for something like 15 years. Like
Mhm.
she was chancellor before George W. Bush was president, and she was
Oh
still
wow.
chancellor whenever Biden went into office, I think.
Oh, so she's just like really recently retired then.
Just really really recently, yeah.
Hmm. Oh wow.
So, oh, and the president of SpaceX, Gwen Shotwell, she's female too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about. Yeah, because yeah, Elon Musk has her in her crew. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. That's true.
Talking about SpaceX, and since you live in Brownsville, have you gone over to see what they're doing there?
Yes, I went there. I don't remember what day it was, but we're scheduled to go there Saturday. We're scheduled
Okay.
to.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
was
get a
at.
tour?
Of inside the building.
Oh, this
Of
coming Saturday you're going?
this coming Saturday is 25th from
Wow, that's
9 in the
awesome.
morning to what's it gonna be from like 2:30 or 9 in the morning to like 2:30. We're gonna go there to Boca
Ah,
Chica.
that is amazing.
Hmm.
How did y'all arrange that?
I being honest, I don't know because the last time like oh we're going to SpaceX, I'm like how did that even happen? But we actually got to we weren't allowed to video to take any pictures or anything. As a matter of fact, one of the people that worked there that was giving us the tour, the construction workers got mad at him like, hey, you're not allowed to take pictures. He's like, don't worry, I'm with SpaceX. It's okay. He's like, oh okay, fine. But we were able to see like how they build the thrusters, the bottom ones, why they're so expensive, what was wrong with the previous launch. And the woman there, she was actually what was her name? Christina, I believe it was Christina Lee. She's a coder, and then she was in charge of the day before she had finished a program, which would adjust the wings that they could open and close and rotate. So on the next launch, which was I believe it was the fifth SN15 I think so. I think the one that was there, the one that was like scheduled, she whenever it came down, it was adjusting his wings, and it was really cool when we saw that in person because she was the one that did that. We literally spoke with the person. She gave us a tour, and she was the one that made that possible. I'm like, wow, it was just really cool. Mhm.
That is that is awesome. Um, and so I had one more question. I know I told you to take 10 minutes. I've already taken 20. But
Oh shoot!
um, but if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
Yes, of course I would.
Like, how far would you go? To orbit, to the moon? Would you consider immigrating to Mars?
I've really I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how far I'm willing to go. I just know that I'm willing to go because I really like movies like I'm not sure if you've ever seen Prometheus or Covenant.
I saw
Those movies.
Prometheus.
You
Yeah.
saw Prometheus? Well,
Ah,
just
that's
the
a
fact
scary movie. I mean,
it's a scary movie, but just the fact that they're so out there and then they have the ability to like detect planets. Oh, okay, let's go to a planet or something like Star Trek, for example. Where like Jean-Luc Picard, and then he's like space, the final frontier, and then they're going to like all these different. Obviously, it's sci-fi. You get the Klingons and you got the Vulcans, but just to know, I'm 100% certain that there is other life. We can't be the only life in this universe. There's no way. If there's someone like us in the Milky Way galaxy, I'm pretty sure there's someone even in the Milky Way galaxy or in other galaxies. There has to be life in some form, shape, or another. There has to be. I just know there has to be, and it would be really cool if we could go. If I had the ability to go to space and then go talk to the people, hopefully they don't destroy us, but like go talk with the people and then be friends and I don't know. It's like a well, yeah, like a child's fantasy. It was gonna be really cool. I really like it.
yeah. And even if there's not aliens out there, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's so big and there's so many places there has to
Mhm.
be other people. But even if there's not, we should be those people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That would be really cool. And just the fact, like, oh shoot, like you see, like right here, we're on Earth, and then whenever we see a meteor or shooting star, oh, make a wish, like something like it's not tiny, but something like small as that compared to like you see a whole planet, you're like, wow. And then I'm not sure if you've ever are you familiar with the show Futurama?
The which one?
Futurama.
Oh, Futurama. I've seen a few parts of episodes,
You see,
like with like it's a cartoon and it has like the robot with the really long arms. I guess
mhm.
is
Yeah,
what.
you have Bender, Fry, Leela, Hermes, and they go on adventures too. And it's a cartoon, I understand that, but like wow, they go to like different and then they travel like years. It's crazy. And then if we were able to do that, if we are able to do that in the future, which I'm 100% certain we will be able to, how would we go about time travel? Because I don't know why I have this in the back of my mind that the government already has they already have the ability to time travel. They just don't release it to a public because yeah, they're never gonna do that. But if they haven't for whatever quote unquote reason, how would we go about that? I know it's two different things. You have time travel, you're meddling with like quantum mechanic and everything, versus you have space and it's just like thrusters and things like that. But still, I'm just like it intrigues my mind. Like how do we go about that?
Do you read much science fiction?
Science fiction. I don't read it. I see it like on shows and things. I like watching science fiction. Yeah.
Well, it's not a movie yet, but it's a book. It's called Recursion, and there's a lot of time travel on it. It's really freaky. The audiobook's good.
Valuable.
It's not a movie, but the audiobook's good. So that's another
I
possibility.
remember in what was it? Star Trek Enterprise with going back to Star Trek Enterprise with was it Captain Archer, one of his I believe it's a lieutenant. He basically got in a shuttle and he went faster. The premise of that episode was that he went faster than the speed of light. So because you're going faster than the speed of light, you're actually going like back in time. But he was like he wasn't aging younger. He was like getting older, but he saw everything in like a second. I don't know how that worked. It's always boggled my mind how that works. And I'm pretty sure there has to be they don't just make it like there. No, there has to be like some reasoning behind what they're saying. They won't go completely in depth, but there has to be. I don't know. I think getting like a lot of shower thoughts right now, but but I don't know. It's just it's really interesting. I just don't know. I don't know the answers. I wish I knew the answers. I wish I hopefully I could be the person to like find out those answers and then prove them to the world. That would be really cool. Or to work amongst people who have found some answers. As a matter of fact, what was it? Two people here in Brownsville got awarded the two professors got awarded the breakthrough prize, which is the one that was they get shared. Was it they get shared a total sum amount of was it like $3 million because what they proved was that you know how in a black hole it's if I'm not mistaken in a black hole it you know how it sucks you in a black hole. Well, basically, what they proved was that you could actually measure the waves of the black hole. Yeah, you can measure the waves and at the rate like it's pulling you in, like how and they got awarded that prize here in Brownsville. I'm like, wow, that's insane.
And
Mhm.
I think I I don't see a reason why you couldn't be the one to find the answers. I think if you want to find the answers, that's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you find what you look for. So if you're willing to look for them,
if
I
you're willing to
you,
look for it, if you're willing to put the time and effort,
yeah,
in
absolutely,
in theory, anything, yeah, anything's possible. You should have to
definitely.
be determined and dedicated.
Well, those were the questions I had for you. Did you have any questions or anything that you wanted to talk about?
Mm, by any chance, are you related to EXF or like SSDT, SSD, DCs or DTs, the ones that Anita Gale does?
So I know Anita Gill. I even
Uh-huh.
been at two parties at her house at some point, and she's even come to my house. We used to have the North Houston Space Society met at my house before we found the library,
Mhm.
and she had come over here and talked about her space settlement design competition. So I know that. And then David Charant, yeah, he's come to many of our meetings, and he's also presented. I've seen him as well, but I'm not associated with the contest at all. But happy to help if ever needed.
And what about with Rick Janae with EXF?
Rick Dene, I've talked to him on the phone, and I met him in passing one time at Anita's house. I think he was arriving right as I was leaving. Um, I mean, I know he was talking about starting like let's see, a National Space Society chapter in Brownsville at one point. So I was really excited about that post. I feel like there needs to be a National Space Society chapter down there.
In Bronzo, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what according to what was it his website? Well, I'm not sure if he's the one for the website, but he's the one that founded the EXF. That it says that they bring things that are really expensive, so like NASA, the experiences, the people, all of that, to like areas where that opportunity is not there to begin with. So, so for example, here in Bronzeville, the the average the average amount of money that a person makes in a year would be somewhere between 50 to 80,000. Whereas you go somewhere like in California, you go in New York, those numbers bump up to like what is it like six figures? They bump up and they go pretty high, and it's really amazing. But like SpaceX, what is it? I'm going in Saturday in 3 days, and that's gonna be a trip. I want to
that
see how much
is.
they. I'm gonna see. I want to see how much they've improved since last time that we were there.
Have you seen, yeah, I know all the changes, but
Mhm.
have you seen Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut's, tour of the SpaceX facility? I think he published it about a month ago. It might be worth watching that before you go, just so that you have some ideas of things to look
Yeah,
out for.
you have an idea. Yeah, that'll be really cool. And then we told Christina Lee, the engineer that was there, we told her how come you guys were able to. I forgot what it was, but how come you guys were able to successfully tilt it? Like it tilted and then it came back down on itself because it was like kind of like belly flopping and then it came back down. How come it was able to land? But then like a minute and a half later, it just everything exploded. Like what happened? It made a perfect landing happen. And then she said, "Oh, okay. So we have liquids and gases in there, like in a chamber, and they're supposed to mix together to a certain ratio. That way, when it's coming back down, it doesn't explode. But something happened with that mixing that too much of it got mixed together, and it all it took was like a little tiny spark, because it was already, imagine, it was like incredibly hot in that actual thing. All it took was a little spark, or it was just like waiting to explode. Something happened, and it just poof, everything just exploded. You just saw like, oh, nice landing. It's like, oh my god. It's like, it was like really bad. Like, oh my god. And then
I know, it
we
was
asked
so
around.
sad. I was watching that on video,
Mhm.
and after landing, I was so excited, and I was like telling everybody about it. And then I get a message, and it's like, kaboom! I'm like, what are you talking about? It landed successfully. And he's
Then you
like, you need
just
to
see it,
go
you're like, oh
watch.
my
I
god, yeah,
know.
it was really bad. I'm like, what happened? And she told us. I was like, oh, okay. Like for us, we understood it, but it has to deal a lot. She told us like the refined version. That way our heads could like make sense of what actually was going on. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more that like, oh, like some specific chemical, when this chemical, this there's not supposed to, like, because of such whatever. But she explained it to us in a way where we could understand it. And hmm, I don't think they would make a mistake like that. I'm not saying like on purpose, or that they wouldn't calculate it, or that they wouldn't foresee that that would happen. It's just, you know how when, I'm pretty sure you've been involved in a lot of projects, right? That has to do with, and then something goes wrong. You're not planning on it to go wrong. It's just that something wasn't supposed to happen, and it happened, and it just wasn't planned for it, and then it just it just exploded, or it
I-
malfunctioned, something. Like for
That
example, like on the, what was it, the Challenger, one of the actual, I saw a documentary on it. I think one of the rotors, it wasn't like properly aligned. It was like misaligned, and they still put it like that. And when it was going up, because of that fix, it just exploded.
well,
The
actually,
whole thing.
the Challenger is interesting story. So the booster segments on the side, they have these they're actually put together in parts, and there's
Mhm.
these rubber seals between those parts, and um, when it heats up, the rubber seal fills up that connector. And so as the solid rocket booster is burning up, it keeps all the gases going down. Well,
Mhm.
the Challenger, whenever it launched and exploded, launched on the coldest day that any shuttle had ever been launched on. And whenever you make rubber cold, it becomes very,
Right away, it cracks.
yeah, it becomes very inflexible. And so this rubber seal didn't seal that part. And then the gas started coming out between that joint. And
The
then
seams on the
it
on the outside. Mhm.
yeah, and then it pierced the external tank and that exploded. And then it kind of all went down from there. But there's actually two seals, right? There's an inner one and an outer one. And the engineers that were responsible for the shuttle sides, the inner one had actually broken through many times on many different flights, and but it never went through the outer seal, the second
Mhm.
seal. And the engineers, before the day the shuttle took off, they were really concerned about this, and they put together. They didn't have PowerPoint back then, right? I mean, you're like
No, they
making
didn't.
slides, and you didn't have email and all this things, so they're like hand drawing slides and stuff. But
And drawing
they
like,
had
oh, what, yeah.
yeah, they had correlated the temperature versus the number of times that it had burned through, and they showed that the colder it was, the more likely they were to have like those burn throughs. And this was by far the coldest flight. And what's sad is that the Challenger was actually, this is like I think the fourth time they attempted to launch it, but like on the previous three attempts, they ran into various issues, and all those days were warmer. So it's like if it had launched in those days, it probably wouldn't have been a problem. But
Hmm.
there's a Netflix documentary that goes through,
It goes
the
through everything.
engineering side and the emotional side and the impact, and
Everything.
it's just something else. I actually saw the Challenger in December on the launch pad before it blew up in January.
Oh no.
I know that was my very first time to go to. I was like in fourth grade, um, and that was my first time to go to the Kennedy Space Center, and anyway, so that's
You just like no. It's Christina Lee was mentioning that they were gonna launch it when we were there. They were gonna launch. I don't know. I remember what day we were on, but on the weekend they were supposed to have it launched. But what happened was that there was too much. It was really humid in the. It was gonna be really humid on that launch day, and it was gonna be. There was a lot of factors with the weather, so it couldn't be launched. Oh, the winds. It was really humid, and it had a lot. It was a lot of winds. So what happens? You don't think like if I'm just standing here outside, yeah, a couple winds gonna hit me. When you have this massive object going at it, and you have winds hitting it, it's gonna veer off course. It's going to. There's no. That's why when there's like heavy winds and you're in an airplane, you feel the turbulence, and if you don't adjust for it, if you just let the wind take you, it's you're gonna end up somewhere different. So I was like, no, we couldn't launch that. We were going to, but we just couldn't because then you just risk everything you worked for being destroyed over. You could have waited like 2, 3 more days, and that's a really bad thing about here in Brownsville because there's either one it gets really hot, the one day it's really hot, the next day it's really windy, the next day it's cold. You never know. Like the forecast will tell you, and then at the again the second day you'll just be like, what happened? Like like there was supposed to be a cold front today, and all throughout school there was nothing. It was really humid, and then as like 5:10 rolled around, and then it started getting the wind started getting a bit cold, and I was like, oh really? Now's the cold front. I needed it like at 12 when the heat was going on, but like at midday when it was coming off, like oh whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that she was telling us that go into the space shuttle taking off.
yeah. I mean, out there in Brownsville on the way from Houston, you see all these wind farms on the way to Brownsville. So you're like, it must get windy. So
Yeah,
otherwise, there'd be
no,
no point in building the
there are no.
farms.
Yeah, exactly. There'd be no point. You're just wasting money at that point now. Yeah, that's why I love like my neighbor over here. She has solar panels. Just have there's solar panels a lot, but like here, how do solar panels work? Do they charge on? Will they charge faster depending on if it's a hotter day? Like if there's more sun, will they charge faster?
I
Or
think it's strictly based upon the light that's on it, and it's basically creating a current, and then that can you can store that in a battery.
you can
But
start in
yeah,
better.
yeah, actually, heat is probably bad for them because it increases resistance. Heat
Mhm.
does. So
And then here where it gets really high. The lowest we usually go like during the summer months, the spring and summer, it's like max that we're going is 70 Fahrenheit. The max, the highest we're going is like we're reaching between 85 to like 95. And sometimes it's even hotter, especially like if you're on the street. You just go outside. I'm not even joking with you. I go outside 5 seconds. If I go to maybe yeah, half day, midday at 12, I go outside 5 seconds. I'm already dripping sweat. I'm not even kidding. It's that hot. It gets really hot here. Where are you recording this from? Like, where are you right now?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
You're in Houston. Say, oh, so okay, so you're familiar with the heat.
Oh,
You're
I am familiar with the heat. Oh my
not
gosh.
really. It's
Yeah,
no, it gets bad.
I went to the Kennedy Space Center and
Mhm,
I got the cheapest air flights I could get. I got the cheapest hotel I could get. I got the cheapest rental car I could get. Right.
mhm,
I'm just like cheap, 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 cheap. But then when it came to getting tickets to actually watch the launch, I went ahead and got the VIP
mhm.
tickets, and they call it the fill the heat tickets. And a lot of people were joking that it was so hot, they don't need to charge for that. That's free. You could
Yeah, exactly. So the VIP, I'm pretty sure there's like a boot suite and then there's like air conditioning, right? On those?
No, no booth seats. It's just outside, and
Oh,
the
okay. In
yeah,
like in like rafters, like maybe it's like a football stadium. Like you're just there, like
exactly, exactly.
oh
Except
no, and I can imagine that it gets really hot. And then what was it? My girlfriend was telling me that one of her mom's friends went to the Kennedy Space Center and they got those exact same tickets. But on the days, she told me that they give you two tries. So like if on the first day the thing doesn't launch, you can come back the next time when it's supposedly gonna launch and they won't charge you again. But for them, on the second time that they were supposed to launch, it got delayed as well. So they lost out on like what was it like $1,200 because it was like a big
yes,
family and they bought tickets
250
for everyone.
each. Yeah,
Yeah, it's 250. They lost a lot of money,
it
and I
is a
was
lot
like,
of
oh
money.
man, that sucks. But it's like again, they never tell you like, oh, okay, yes, we're gonna do it. They can have it planned out. It doesn't mean they're gonna do it. they'll run into like this last minute thing. And I'm pretty sure they're not using this to like scam people out of money, but it's like, dude, kind of paid you for this. Like, let's see it go up. But yeah, you just never know. You have to hope that the time is right and like, oh, okay, let's see it go up. And then in those seats, do you feel when the since you're closer, when the rocket's going up, do you feel like the like it as soon as it turns on, do you feel like the wind
You're
hitting you or something like that?
We were like 3 miles away, so you like see it take off and it goes up, and you don't hear anything until it gets maybe 3 or 4 rocket lengths above the launch pad, and then you hear the sound, but you don't feel anything. You're too
You feel,
far away
oh,
to feel anything.
it's similar to like when you see lightning and then there's like a trick where you see lightning and then you count how many seconds until you hear it and then supposedly that's how many miles it was away from the you know what I'm talking about, right? Like how
Yeah,
many miles it was
so
away?
maybe that's about right. Maybe it is about 3 seconds difference, 4 seconds. I
Three
mean,
something like
the rocket, is going up pretty good. So, um, and your adrenaline's going in that moment's like slowed down. So I think I'll look at the video, but maybe it was about 3 seconds.
that. Oh, 30 seconds, and then you just hear and you're like, oh wow, like that's what it sounds. No, it's just really cool. I would really love to be at one of those takeoffs. I think that would be insane. Especially
It,
like the one you were saying, what was it like 2024? They were gonna launch the first woman, right? Or they're planning on launching the first woman.
yes, now that I think you'll be able to fill, because I mean you got the two solid rocket boosters like from the shuttle era. You have four of the shuttle main engines, so that's going to be really, really powerful.
I think that they're probably gonna have to put you like an extra mile and a half back. That way you won't like blow your HMR or something like that. I don't know. But that I would love to be there like when it takes off. That'd be really interesting. I love to be there. And then I'll be thinking back on this moment like, oh yeah. And then I'll just be like, oh, okay. And then let's watch it again. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that sounds good. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of SpaceX this weekend, and maybe we should talk afterwards so
Yeah.
that we could find out. But uh, anyway, I completely lied to you about 10 minutes. It's been 41 minutes at this point.
Oh
Uh,
wow. No harm, no foul. 41 minutes.
I hope not.
Yeah.
But anyway, I better let you go. You have a good night.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Okay,
Nathan.
bye-bye.
Okay, bye bye.